I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Derrick Duplessy. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful night?
Am I breathing? Yes, I am. I'm doing excellent.
That's wonderful to hear. What part of the world are you in right now, Derrick?
Boston, Massachusetts.
All right. And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
I would say a lot of them and all of them, but I would say podcasting is how we got connected.
Purpose Rockstar Podcast, to be specific.
Yes.
Tell us more about that podcast, please.
Well, Purpose Rockstar started because I had all these friends that wanted to do interesting things, right? Things outside of the norm, but they didn't really have any examples. And so over 200 and I think we've done 230 different interviews. I've interviewed people from 6 continents, not Antarctica yet, and they've all talked about their journey, their career journey to a life and a job and a career of purpose.
Wow. Well done, Derrick. Wow. So, who did you learn the skill of translating stories from?
That's a good question. There's a lot of podcasts that I listen to that inspired me. Uh, Guys like Jeremy Franson and Jason Van Orden from, forgetting the name of the podcast right now.
Yeah, puts you on the spot. It's amazing how that happens,
Right.
right? Yeah.
But those guys, the Click and Clack brothers from, of course, I'm forgetting their podcast too, from Car Talk, and Online Business Mastery. So, both of those really helped me to, see that, hey, this is possible. And then, of course, John Lee Dumas, came out like just on fire with the Entrepreneur on Fire. And I said, if he could do it, I can do it.
It's the same way I feel. If he could do it, I could do it. It's the same way, Derrick. I mean, is that duplicity?
Yeah, it's funny because I was watching a YouTube video and they talked about Roger Bannister, right? So he was the one guy crazy enough to try to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And before then, people had these theories that your body would explode, that it would be not possible physically to do a mile in under 4 minutes. And after he was able to do it, dozens of people did it the next year, hundreds the next year, and now so many people have done 4 minute miles. It's not even funny.
I can definitely say that's something I do welcome, people doing hundreds of podcast conversations, because I do believe a conversation is something that's so powerful from a health perspective, from a spiritual perspective. I believe it's so powerful. You've definitely seen the impact of having and increasing your conversations, haven't you?
Yeah, when you share something so intimate as your story with someone else, and then never mind the thousands of people who are listening, I think you gain a sense of sensitivity to everybody has a story. And so you might be like, man, that guy really makes me upset. But you don't know that guy's story. You don't know that woman's story. Uh, for example, in the United States here, we have President Trump, right? He's a very divisive figure. And it's really interesting because the Trump that I grew up really understanding was from the book The Art of the Deal and The Art of the Comeback, and just understanding his flaws. So it's kind of interesting to me the good and the bad of everybody. And through the podcast medium, really get time, even in 12 minutes, to get the richness of that person's story, and maybe we understand a little bit about ourselves just by listening to somebody else.
Love it. Tell me one other thing, Derrick, you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
That's a good question. I think consistently I've taken on new challenges. And so my newest challenge is really trying to be ubiquitous, right? And so on my birthday, September 21st, I made a commitment to put myself out there way more. So I started to write daily, publishing on Facebook, just my personal Facebook page, LinkedIn, and also Medium. And it's been really interesting to see, just with a little bit of storytelling, what resonates, what doesn't resonate. And it's been a lot of fun. And now I'm adding on to that, posting on Instagram and on Twitter. So I'm trying to be as ubiquitous as possible. But for me, it's about evolution every day.
Hmm. How does it make you feel?
Well, I think it just makes me feel alive, right? Um, Not too long ago, it was a very important time in my life, 2015, around July 4th. Uh, it was an interesting time because I was less than 1 month away from marrying my now wife, and I felt the pressure from my family, from her family, to do, to provide, protect, to govern, all the kind of stuff that is stereotypically the role of the guy. And then at the same time, I knew that I wasn't succeeding in business. And so the only thing that could pop in my head was to jump in front of the train the very next morning. And when I got to that point, I was like, wow, how did I get here? And thankfully, the entrepreneurial light bulb came on and said, you're not the only person with this problem. And so, what did I do? The next day, I put up an ad on Eventbrite and said, hey, come on a rooftop with me and scream out your frustration and let's talk about startup life. So literally within 30 minutes of posting that event, three members of the press had contacted me and a bunch of people had signed up. And
Wow.
this is just amazing experience. So now I just feel like, hey, every day above ground is an opportunity to do something special. And so why not grow every day?
Hmm. Love it. Suggest to someone out there that's listening why they should do what you've done by listening to that inner voice at that specific time.
Sure. Yeah, there's no question about it. I'm starting a community now, a global community called Scream, like and Club, because we do the rooftop screams,
Hmm.
starting in 2018. And so we're going to start with a global scream on Martin Luther King Day, just to, embrace his message of unity and just also embrace that, hey, we all face tough times and it's okay to let it out and be vulnerable. Um, so I'm just really excited for that movement to take place and sort of to start it and people sort of take it over.
Hmm. Amazing audience. You're hearing it live here from Derrick Duplessy. Again, he is the podcast host of Purpose Rockstar. Definitely check that out. Derrick, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water.
Love
Derrick,
it.
what is your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest memory was sitting in front of the television. So my mom loved her stories, right? So that's what she called soap operas. And it was my job to sit at 3 years old in front of the TV and explain to her what happened as she's cooking. So, English is actually my second language. So that was how I, came to understand how English is spoken. And in soap operas, everybody is very dramatic, but they speak with mostly correct diction. So it's very interesting that my how I speak English comes from soap operas.
Wow, what is your first language?
Creole, I'm Haitian.
Wow, all right, all right, all right. How do you see that memory impacting on who you are today?
Well, I've always been the person that people push me to lead, and I do it very reluctantly. Um, but at the end, it turns out to be something really good.
Mm.
So whether it's a Scream Club, I sort of push myself in that situation, or starting a podcast like you have. It's just putting yourself out there and seeing what you can learn from it.
Can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture
Sure.
you created in my
Sure.
mind?
Yeah.
So, I love the idea of what you expressed, where you are learning from others and their voices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Via what's happening on the podcast, right? We expressed how it changes your life and getting to hear someone's story. But I think like on the podcast, when I'm having a conversation, I'm usually mirroring the individual. And in so doing, it gives me the opportunity to learn and to grow. To see you in front of the TV doing that for your mother then, and now for so many others, where you're creating that mirroring effect on that rooftop, right? Or just for the scream, where you are now saying, hey, this is how I scream. You can scream too. It's just fascinating how that connects to me.
Yeah, you've hit it right on the button. I never really thought about it that way, just taking the opportunity. If the TV is a mirror, so is a podcast. Just you and I right now are able to connect on the things that we have in common, and also the contrast stand out a little bit more, and we could share with each other.
Amazing. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
There's a lot of songs out there that really captured my imagination. When I was 12, it was like 1992, so I might be off by a year or two, but I remember at that time, Hip Hop Hooray was a song that really captured my imagination.
Love it. All right. Well, I am sure that when people are finished screaming, that they are feeling as though it's hip hop hooray, right? Oh, that's great. Derrick, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Derrick, are you ready?
I am ready, Angel.
Derrick, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Yes, I have.
Are you married?
Yes, I am.
Do you have children?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do. Yeah, it's always evolving.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
For sure. I think that's sports.
All right. What about screen time? The phone and the computer, is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
That's a good question. I would say it's more.
All right. Derrick, if you had to share with us your own unique, real statement, a statement that represents Derrick Duplessy, what would you say that is?
Pursue your purpose. It needs you.
Love it. Derrick, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
If you'd like to connect with me, there's a lot of places you can do that. You can check me out on Medium. I post there every day. And also, it's your time. It doesn't matter if you're ready or not. Make that first step. So check out Scream Club or Purpose Rockstar for our podcast. And, this has been just awesome, just spending time with you.
Love it. Same here, my friend. Derrick Duplessy, thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.